Warm good morning, dear class 7ers. Today we will begin with a new chapter, reflection of light at a plane surface. So before we start with this chapter, a few terms related with the light or reflection of light you should know. The first one is the medium. There are two medium. Air is one of the medium, and other one is the glass and water. So that means the three mediums are there. One is air, other one is glass and water. Now air is considered as a rarer medium, R-A-R-E-R, rarer medium. Glass and water are considered or said to be as a denser medium, D-E-N-S-E-R, denser medium. So when the ray of light is traveling in one medium, let us consider air. Okay, when a ray of light is traveling in one medium, and when that light falls on the reflecting surface is the mirror, plane mirror is the reflecting surface. Okay, so plane mirror you will find in so many places. You will find at home, you will find in a vehicle, you will find in a shop, okay, even in a barber shop. So everywhere you will find plane mirror, and plane mirror is considered as the reflecting surface. Now why they are known as the reflecting surface is because they reflect the light. Okay, I'll give you one example. You hold a plane mirror and keep it in the sunlight. You take a plane mirror, keep it on the sunlight, and what you will see is that on the opposite side of the mirror, that is on the wall, okay, you will find a patch of light on the wall, that is opposite side of the mirror. So now this patch of light is the reflection which is done by the mirror, and this reflection is done by the mirror with the sunlight. Okay, so this mirror will reflect the light, and this reflection of light takes place when if a ray of light traveling in one medium, let us consider air. If the ray of light is traveling in one medium and it falls on the reflecting surface, that is plane mirror, and will be sent back to the same medium. That means whichever the medium the ray of light is coming and goes back to the same medium, then we call it as a reflection of light, and this phenomenon of bouncing back of light is known as reflection of light. So one is the medium, and this reflection of light takes place when the ray of light passes only in one medium. That means when the ray of light passes through air, reflection of light takes place. But if the ray of light passes from one medium to another medium, that is, if the ray of light is passing through air and enters towards the glass, ray of light passing through the air and enters towards the glass, so in that case reflection of light does not take place. In that case, now what will happen? Refraction of light takes place. Refraction of light takes place. So refraction of light means the changing in the path of ray of light. When the ray of light will change its path, okay, then we call it as a refraction. So though this refraction is not there, but you should have idea about the refraction also. In a refraction, the refraction is the change of path of the ray of light, and this change of path of the ray of light takes place when the ray of light passes from one medium, one transparent medium towards the another medium, that is from air to glass or water, or from glass or water to air. But if the ray of light will pass through the same medium, they will bounce back towards the same, that means they will reflect it back or bounce back to the same medium, then we call it as a reflection of light. So the next point is here about the ray. Okay, ray of light. Ray of light means, suppose if I draw a line, okay, and this line we call it as a ray, and this ray of light comes from the source. So suppose you take a candle or a lighted candle, a sunlight, okay, any source where the light emits, okay, from there if I draw a one line, then one line if I draw it, then it is known as the ray. That is the ray of light. Second one is there, if I draw a number of rays here, okay, which is parallel to each other, number of rays if I draw it, okay, and this ray is traveling from one side towards the another side, so which is known by this arrow. This arrow I have drawn towards the right, so the ray of light is passing from left to right. So this is shown by the arrow. You can understand it by the arrow. If I draw number of rays here, now it is known as the beam of light. So beam of light is the combinations of the number of rays. If the number of rays are combined, okay, then we call it as a beam of light. So one is the ray and other one is the beam of light. Now let us come to the definition of reflection of light. As I told you that reflection is the bouncing back of light. So how the bouncing back of light takes place, you follow this figure here. Let us consider this M1 and M2. I'll write it here, M1 and M2. This is the reflecting surface. Let us consider a plane mirror. Now AO is the ray of light which falls on the reflecting surface, that is plane mirror, and this ray of light are coming from here. Okay. Now after striking this reflecting surface, the ray of light will go back to the same medium. That means the ray of light AO is the ray of light which is coming from the ear, from one medium. Then this ray of light will be bounced back or go back to the same medium. Since the reflection of light takes place when the ray of light travels from one medium and goes back to the same medium, in that case reflection of light takes place. You know that. Okay. So AO is the ray of light which are coming from a source, okay, and it falls on the reflecting surface. M1, M2 is the reflecting surface, considered as a plane mirror, and when it strikes on that plane mirror, the ray of light will go back to the same medium. So this phenomena of bouncing back of light, we call it as reflection of light. Okay. Now there are a few terms, there are few things to remember in reflection of light. Number one point is the incident ray. AO is the incident ray. Other one is the reflected ray. OB is the reflected ray. Third one is the normal. NO is the normal. Normal is the perpendicular line. Okay, it's a perpendicular line which falls on the reflecting surface. NO is the normal. Then angle AON is the angle of incidence. The incident ray will form an angle which we call it as angle of incidence. Angle BON is the angle of reflection. And O is the point of incidence. Now let us come to the terms which are related or associated with the reflection of light. Now AO is the incident ray. Now what is the incident ray? Is the ray of light which strike the reflecting surface is the incident ray. The ray of light which strike the reflecting surface is called the incident ray. AO is the incident ray. And other one is reflected ray. OB is the reflected, not BO. Okay, because light is going from O to B. Here the light is coming from A to O. So AO is the incident ray and OB is the reflected ray. And reflected ray is the ray of light which bounce back to the same medium. A ray of light which bounce back to the same medium after striking the reflecting surface, that is the reflected ray. Okay, and the other one is the normal. NO is the normal. Normal is the perpendicular line drawn. A perpendicular line, perpendicular means straight. Okay, so this is the perpendicular. A perpendicular line drawn, and the point of incidence is known as the normal. So NO is the normal. The other one is the O. O is the point of incidence. Now what is the point of incidence is? It is a point on the reflecting surface where the incident ray of light strikes. It is the point on the reflecting surface where the incident ray strikes. So this is the point of incidence. Okay, and again the point of incidence. And at the point of incidence, the incident ray will strike here. At the same point, again the reflected ray will also passes through. So that means at the point of incidence, both the incident ray will strike, okay, and the reflected ray will also pass from the point of incidence. Okay, so this is about the technical terms related with the some terms related with the or associated with the reflection of light. Then the next one is angle of incidence. Now this incident ray AO will form an angle with a normal and O. NO is the normal, and this incident ray will form an angle with the normal and O. And the angle made by the incident ray with the normal is known as angle of incidence. The angle made by the incident ray with the normal is known as or called angle of incidence. So I, small letter I, is the angle of incidence. Next one, the angle made by the reflected ray with the normal is known as angle of reflection. The angle made by the reflected ray with the normal is known as angle of reflection, and small letter r is the angle of reflection. Now here what happens is that now the angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. Remember that angle of incidence is always equals to angle of reflection. So how it happens is that now incident ray, now this incident ray, since they form an angle can be 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree, 40 degree, 50 degree, whatever it can be angle, depending upon the incident rays which are falling or striking on the reflecting surface. So if the incident ray will come in this direction, then what will happen? The angle of incidence will become greater. So when the angle of incidence becomes greater, angle of reflection will also become greater, because the angle of incidence and angle of reflection will always be equal. Okay. If the angle of incidence is 30 degree, angle of reflection will also be 30 degree. Likewise, if the angle of incidence is 80 degree, angle of reflection will also be 80 degree. Okay, so whatever may be the angle of incidence, the angle of reflection will also be same. Okay, now why it happens is that because the incident ray when it strike on the reflecting surface, this incident ray will be reflected back towards the same medium. Whichever the medium the ray of light is coming and striking the reflecting surface, and the reflected ray will go back to the same medium. So in that case, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection will become same. Okay, so now this is about the reflection and some terms related with the reflection. One is the incident ray, other one is the reflected ray, other one is the normal, point of incidence, and the reflecting surface M1 and M2. Now let us come to the laws of reflection. There are two laws of reflection. Now the first law states that the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence all lie at the same plane. That means, what does it mean is that this reflected ray, this incident ray, this reflected ray, this normal will all lie at one point, that is at the point of incidence. So the first law is that the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence all lie at the same plane. That is the first law. Okay, now this point, we have seen this here. So this point where all the normal, the reflected ray, the incident ray, where they are meeting, where they are joining, so that point is the point of incidence. Okay, and the second law is that the angle of incidence is equals to angle of reflection. The second law is angle of incidence is equals to angle of reflection. So there are the two laws related with the reflection of light. So in the next class, we will start with another portion, that is the types of reflection. Okay, two types of reflection are there: regular reflection and irregular reflection. Thank you.